Today we're going to pick up where we left off in the last video on the 2500 to 3500 dually conversion and continue prepping everything for paint. Painting this portion of the frame, all of the 3500 dually components, and then assembling everything onto our now 3500 dually. So let's get into it on Rebuild Revival. While I was under the bed, I noticed that my drive shaft center support is wore out and I was having a little bit of a vibration. I'm just gonna bring it to a drive shaft shop, get the center support pressed on, and then have them balance the whole thing. All right, I wanted to talk a little bit about the springs. I picked them up from a spring shop who replaced the broken leaf. The spring shop that I took this to is called Atlas Springs. It's in Los Angeles County, La Puente, California. I highly recommend them. I brought these in and I think 2 days later they were done. They mentioned that they don't recommend reusing shackles or replacing the bushings in the shackles because they can't guarantee that they won't mess up the shackle. I don't see a problem with it. It's not a big deal. I'll just press the old one out and press the new ones in and we'll be good to go. So let's get the shackles off and go press in the new bushings. Okay, next up what I want to do is get all of these parts sandblasted and cleaned up. Now I'm going to be using this cabinet right here. I've already got a couple of different pieces in here. This cabinet only has this fine glass bead. I don't think it's going to take off this powder coat. It'll probably clean these up a little bit, not great. So let's see how it's going to work on this and all of these other parts. All right, so I'm gonna replace the media that's in here. I'm gonna get rid of all this glass bead and put in some of this black aluminum oxide. I think it'll work a lot better. Okay, so I am finally done sandblasting all this hardware. I know it doesn't look perfect, but once it's painted, all of the leftover surface rust will be gone and it'll be a uniform black. So we're done with this. We're gonna go back to the other shop and continue working on the truck. All right, so we're back at the shop and now I'm gonna start working on these brackets since I wasn't able to sandblast them. I'm just gonna hit them with the wire wheels, clean them up as much as possible, scuff up whatever won't come off, and then paint them like that. I'm also gonna hit this with the wire wheel. I was going to pressure wash it, but I ended up not doing that. So I'm just gonna hit it with the wire wheel, get off as much as I can with that, and then that will be ready to paint. All right, now we're gonna keep cleaning up the frame. There's just a little bit more work I need to do, not much, but I am gonna drop the fuel tank because it kind of blocks a lot of stuff over here. The inside of this frame rail, the bottom side of that cross member. And it should just be these two lines and then two big clamps. One is right there, and then the other one is up towards the front. Let's get a jack underneath it and lower the tank. To get to that front clamp up there, I got to remove that bracket, which is for the center support bearing. So I just need to remove that and then get to the bracket. All right, now that we got the fuel tank out, I'm gonna lift the truck back up so we have better access underneath, and we're gonna start cleaning up the rest of the frame. I was thinking about how I'm gonna mask these airbags off, and I figured I should just take them off. So let's get this fitting off and we'll pull the bag off. All right, so I'm starting to put up some plastic to begin painting, and I just want to blow the frame off first and kind of get everything out that way, because I am going to put a sheet of plastic up pretty much right at the back of the cab, plastic the cab off, and go all around right there. So I'm just going to blow this off, blow all of that off just to get any dust or rust dust off of it. Then we'll do some wax and grease remover and we'll be ready to paint. Okay, now we need to mix some paint. So we're gonna be using this Zero Rust stuff first, and then we're gonna top coat it with some Pour 15 top coat. I'm gonna try and do everything with just these. So I might be putting on the coats a little bit light, but I think it'll still be okay in the end. And we're gonna be using our Spectrum Harbor Freight HVLP. I did put the 1.3 tip on from my other gun. It's the other one's the HTE gun. I wanted to spray with the 1.3 because I am going to be thinning it quite a bit. That seems pretty good right there. That was probably more like a 5-to-1 or even a 4-to-1. Let's try it there. So I've got my pressure at the gun somewhere between 10 and 15, probably more around 12. I'm gonna start a little bit lower because I am trying to save some paint, and then I'm gonna reduce the fan a little bit as well so I don't have as much overspray. Seems good. All right, first coat, looks good. Let's mix up some more paint.
Alright, we just finished up 2 coats of Zero Rust on the frame and 1 coat of Zero Rust on everything else. Now we'll mix up some Pour 15 and do 1 top coat on everything.
All right, so it is the next day. This has been drying for maybe 16 hours or so, and it turned out pretty good. I mean, obviously it's just a frame, so it doesn't need to be 100% perfect, but I've got really good coverage, especially on the top, which is what I was really worried about because the bed obviously goes on top and you can't get to it. So yeah. Even on the bottom, I got really good coverage. I know it might be kind of dark, but anyways, painting is done. Got all of this stuff painted as well. Got really good coverage on the rear end. Let's see, this is the top, and the other side is obviously the bottom. You should let this stuff dry for like 24 hours or so. Maybe more, but I'm gonna start assembling now. I'll just try and be as careful as possible. If a little scratch happens, not a big deal. So let's get all of this plastic cleaned up and we'll start reassembling the truck. All right, so we're about to start reassembling the truck, but I noticed that when the spring shop installed these bushings, I don't think they put any grease in them. And if you look into these energy suspension polyurethane bushings, these grooves right there are for grease, and this has no grease. So I need to press these out, grease them, and press them back in. So I'm just gonna snug these up just to hold them on there, not even really snug until I get the weight on it, and then I'll torque all the bushings down, or all the leaf spring mounts.
I'll also pop these overload spring stops on.
All right, now we're gonna prepare to install the rear end. I've got a Mag High-Tech cover on my rear end, which will fit this because it's the same rear end, just dimensions are a little bit different, but the bolt pattern and everything is the same. So I'm gonna remove this one. We'll check how the differential looks, and then we'll get the other cover, put it on this one, and put some new fluid in it. Lots of stuff on that fill plug. This is all metallic material here. All right, now we're gonna clean up the gasket mating surface. I'm just gonna put a couple of paper towels over the diff to catch anything that falls. Oh, you know what? This takes more. I don't know how much this cover takes. I forgot it has a higher capacity than stock. Let's see if this will do it. No, it's close. So this thing takes 5, maybe 6 quarts. So that's good because stock is 3.8, almost 4. Yeah, it's still got a ways to go, but I won't be driving it yet, so I'll just fill that later. All right, so we've got the rear end set up over there. What I'm gonna do is actually drop the truck down on top of it. We've got our brackets for our U-bolts, got the U-bolts here. I had to do a little bit of touch-up paint on some of them. They had a couple of spots without any paint, not a big deal. We've got our lifting blocks. These ones are actually tapered to help with the pinion angle. You'll see it once they're in the truck. So we're gonna go ahead and put these little plastic tabs onto the springs, put the lifting blocks, and then we'll lower the truck down on top of that and then put the U-bolts on. All right, now we're gonna get the fuel tank put back in, but I wanna pop the fuel lines and brake line and harness back into its spot. I'm just gonna clean these things up a little bit, brush them a little, blow them off a little. Okay, we got both straps here. They're different sizes. The big one goes in the back, the little one goes in the front. All right, now we are going to be moving on to the airbags. And I hit them with a quick coat of just paint and primer, Rust-Oleum, cleaned them up a little bit, then painted them. So who knows how long this will hold up, but they look a lot better than they did. And then just clean the bags up a little themselves. So let's go get them on the truck. All right, now we're going to install the parking brake cable linkage. All right, now we're gonna get the calipers put back on. I did clean them up a little bit. This one looks like it's been replaced, which is nice. So this one is probably newer. This one looks like it's probably original. The guy I bought the rear end from just did a brake job. So the pads are pretty much new and they feel nice and free. They're sliding free. So yeah, just cleaned them up and now we're gonna put them back on. And then here is the bleeder that I'm gonna use. I haven't used this yet, it's new. So once I go ahead and use it, I'll let you guys know what I think. And I'll put a link in the description below to this one. I think I did get it on Amazon. But yeah, so let's get these calipers put back on and bleed the brakes. All right, we're over here on the passenger side. I did compress the caliper. All right, so now we're gonna put the center support bracket back in so then we can install the drive shaft, which is over there. I also got a new seal that goes in the back of the transfer case because that one was all deteriorated, and while we're in there, let's go ahead and replace that. All right, now we're gonna install the gooseneck hitch. I just set it up here on the frame rails on some cardboard so it doesn't scratch. Okay, so we got the gooseneck hitch sitting there. It's a little loose because I want to set the bed down on top and make sure that the hole for the hitch lines up with the bed. I don't know why I didn't paint these, like this part of the hub. So I'm going to clean it up real quick and then throw a light coat of paint on it. All right, well, I am pretty much at a point where I need to put the wheels and tires on so I can drive out of the shop to get to the bed, because I can't get the bed over here with the truck here. So I gotta get the wheels and tires on, which they're sitting right over here, right there. We're gonna get the wheels and tires on and I'll show you what it looks like after. All right, now it's time to put the shocks and the spare tire holder back on. So I'm just gonna clean these up real quick, all right, check them out. So we cleaned them up a little bit, better than they were, and now we'll get them back on the truck. All right, now that we got the spare tire mount put back in and the shocks, we could start working on this wiring in preparation to put the bumper on. So I'm gonna clean up some of this and then we'll get the bumper put back on and start hooking up the trailer wiring and then clean it up the rest of the way.
Okay, now I'm gonna pull the truck out of the shop so I can get the dually bed up on the lift. This thing looks pretty cool without the bed on it, the frame all painted, and these 35 1250 20s are massive. The wheel width is 108 inches wide. Alright, now I'll just get the bed lifted up on the lift so I can pull the truck underneath it and get the bed mounted up.
Okay, now we just need to set this thing down. We gotta line that gooseneck hitch up to the holes because this does have a little play back and forth. And we should be good to go. Pretty square. I think we need to go a little this way, but I can grab it and move it. So one thing I do want to install is the fuel filler because it'll be easier to do now, so let's do that. A couple of these little pads need to go on before. Yeah, so those little rubber things, one goes here, one goes here on both sides. All right, so now we're just gonna start slowly letting this thing down and kind of seeing where it's sitting. Okay, my camera is about to die, but we're on. The only thing I need to do is line up this gooseneck hitch to make sure it's lined up with this hole, line the bed up, make sure it's lined up where it's supposed to. Once everything's lined up, then bolt in the bed and we're in. And tighten up the gooseneck, but that's it.
Alright, so I got the bed all bolted in and the gooseneck hitch all tightened down. Now I'm just going to install the receiver hitch and we should be done. Alright, and the truck is done. Here's a shot of it with my camper on the back up in Yosemite, which is about a 300-mile trip away from Los Angeles. This setup is about 4,800 pounds, including the e-bikes and the hitch extension in the back with the bike rack and all of our gear. Here's a better look at that hitch extension. It's pretty massive. It weighs about 100 pounds on its own. And here's the bike rack that I used with the e-bikes. The e-bikes weigh about 75 pounds apiece. If you're interested, the camper is a 96 Northland Polar 11.5 foot. All right, that's gonna do it for the Dodge Ram 2500 to 3500 dually conversion. Some of you may have noticed when I was installing the airbags that they weren't lining up properly. This is because the rear leaf springs that I bought were from a 2006 and this truck is a 2005, and Dodge changed the length of the leaf springs in between 05 and 06. So it pushed my axle back about 2 inches. For the sake of making it to the camping trip that I had already planned, I reinstalled my 2500 leafs with the Hellwig helper springs. I also reinstalled the Hellwig rear sway bar off camera as I was scrambling around to finish this thing up. I'll just show you the wheels I went with really quick. They're Fuel 20 inches. I got all 6 used with new tires already mounted. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this project.
Please let me know what you think of it in the comments, and I'll see you all in the next video.